You're listening to the Gameday Tarps podcast with your hosts, Ryley, Dakota, Dallas, Daeden, Colton, and Wilbs.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode 52 of the Gameday Tarps podcast. This is the trade deadline recap. If you haven't already, go watch episode 51, where we talked about our mock trades and before the trade deadline, and then episode 50 with Stephen Ellis from Daily Faceoff. An awesome interview. So if you haven't seen that, some of his predictions for the draft and all that, just incredible. So go watch that. And then follow us everywhere at Gameday Tarps and subscribe to us on YouTube, again, at Gameday Tarps. But let's get into it here, gents. We're just going to wind it back, everyone, to what started this frenzy, and then we're going to really get into the stuff because we did go over the big three trades that started everything in episode 51. But let's go over it. We got Ryan Lindgren ended up in Colorado, and Seth Jones ended up in Florida, and including New York, who traded away Lindgren. Those three teams had their hands in a lot of things over the last 2 days. So I don't know if you guys want to go over those quick or anything, but let's get into the rest.
I like the Lindgren addition. I think we talked about that already. It provides them some grit. He plays that second pair now, and then obviously he gets deployed differently than he did in New York. So that's fun. I like that. And then I think that was, like you said, though, it was like the precursor to what the whole deadline was for them, right? So flash forward to the next day, and we see today, obviously, not today, a couple days ago, the Trent Frederic deal. Edmonton, of course, goes and loads up now. So I wouldn't say loading up with Trent Frederic, but adding some depth to their team, adding a grinder, guy that's going to go and kick the shit out of anybody that touches McDavid or Draisaitl. Max Jones is a former first-round pick. I mean, if Wilbs was here, former London Knight.
Did you see him last night? Actually, did you see he back-checked, got the puck, and then went end-to-end like a man out of hell? That was hilarious.
I saw the Oilers.
Who is this guy?
I saw the Oilers Nations guys post about that, and we're geeking about it. But, I mean, it's a good. Max Wanner is obviously a former WHL defenseman, played with Moose Jaw. Good prospect. Goes to Boston. Boston loads up with prospects today. Like we'll obviously get into that, but I like Frederic.
Boston era is over.
Like for Boston, it was like about time that Don Sweeney did something, right?
Yeah.
Damn.
I like the trade for Edmonton, but I mean, like, their needs and their wants are too far in between. Like, it's good that they add another middle packed centerman, but let's be honest, guys, they need defense more than anything right now. That's what they're hurting the most. So, I mean, was this really the smartest move they could have made? Probably not, but it still actually helps them out further down the road here as we get closer and closer to the 25 playoffs. So I don't know. I like the trade, but I think that Edmonton could have done a lot better and honestly add a better defenseman for their team.
Well, if you do jump ahead, right, quite like to today, I believe it was, like they added Jake Wallman from
which was great.
Which is I think a great ad. But is he going to change that team much? Like, I don't know. But here's the thing. Here's just my thought. Is Jake Wallman at his cap hit make it so you can get rid of Evan Bouchard? Wallman's kind of an offensive defenseman. If he lights it up with McDavid and Draisaitl, like, does Bouchard all of a sudden become expendable and you don't have to pay him like $9 million if that's what he wants?
Maybe. Like it. That's a good question.
Because I would take Wallman over current Bouchard. Just saying, that's how much Bouchard's drop off has been this year.
Currently,
100%. I think that's fair.
It's crazy to think that Detroit honestly just gave up on him, right? Sent him back into San Jose, and then now he's getting shipped to Alberta's capital. So I don't know, it's crazy. He's gonna fit well with Edmonton's system, but I mean, it was just like Detroit dropped the ball. He had a lot of good ice time in San Jose, but I mean, like a first round pick though, Edmonton had to send back San Jose's way. Like, that's crazy, but it'll be worth it though.
Yeah, considering Detroit had to attach a pick to get rid of him, right?
Which was
a second too. Like,
It was absurd.
But that's how they said it was a seller's market. Like I saw the tweet. This is like one of the last trades of the day. But Anthony Beauvillier went for a 2nd-round pick when last year he went for a 5th. Like Anthony Beauvillier is not a better player than he was last year. Arguably, he's worse. And somehow he got 3 rounds higher of a draft pick.
And before that, he literally got traded in that big Bo Horvat deal out of Vancouver to New York, right? So,
yeah.
Just the value is just so far in between.
Well, and that goes back to it being a seller's market, right? Like, you gotta think what some of those guys could have gotten, like Brock Besser or what. I'm blanking on the other name. Oh no, this is not good.
The Canucks, like Pettersson?
No, not Pettersson, but like Rasmus Anderson. There was obviously talks about maybe him going somewhere. Like Calgary, you just look at the RFAs, right? Like, and not that there was imminent talks of Anderson going anywhere, but you look at the RFAs and the guys that were up for contract this year, and even UFAs, and you have to wonder what you could have got for some of them, right? Like, flash forward to yesterday.
Yep.
Or the day before, when Tampa acquired Bjorkstrand and Gord for 2 first-round picks.
Oh, what a trade!
Like that's a trade. There's the familiarity, obviously, with Gord, and then Bjorkstrand is we're all old enough to remember him dominating the WHL with Portland, so we know what he's done in the NHL too. I think you've already seen the production on the ice in Tampa.
Yep.
So you first round picks for both of those guys is
remember 2020, Tampa paid 2 first-round picks for Blake Coleman, and he was a 3rd liner. They paid a first-round pick for Barclay Goodrow. They paid a first-round pick for Tanner Jeannot. Big mistake, but they still did it, right? Like, and also they added Cal Foote in that trade, which we all know Cal Foote's current situation, but he was a first-round pick, and they valued him slightly as a player, and they tagged him along for Jeannot as well. And Hagel cost 2 first-round picks, plus Radish and Kachuk, who were both 2nd-round picks.
And people questioned that trade big time. They said Brandon Hagel's not worth. Yeah.
I say the Tanner Jeannot trade was worse.
Oh, yeah, Tanner Jeannot.
Nashville, they gave a haul for Tanner Jeannot.
It's one of the worst in history, but at the end of the day, it's he's moved on, and it is what it is.
You gave up Michael Easymont, though, which is
I'm sad because I would have loved to see Eyssimont and Gord on the same line. Like, they're the same player. I would have liked to see maybe someone else go. Like, I like our young players, but right now we have a guy like Gage Gonsalves up in the NHL, and we have Mitchell Chaffee. Like, I like them, but at the same time, it's like I think Eyssimont fits a playoff mold better than those 2 guys. So I wouldn't have minded seeing, one of those guys go the other way if they had to. Or Connor Sheary. How Connor Sheary is still in Tampa Bay Lightning today, I do not understand. His 2-year, $2 million cap hit, that's a player. The fact that they didn't get rid of him means that they could have got another player, and they didn't. So same with Cam Atkinson. He's in the minors now. Like, I don't know. But I love the trade. I don't care. Like, Dallas, I mean, I know we'll go over this, but you said to me at work, like, hey, like, shouldn't they start caring about some assets and stuff? But what's the point? If you just go to the Eastern Conference Final 5 times and don't win the cup, then you didn't get anything. You might as well go for it, right? Like, and as you found out, Colorado decided to do the same thing with Lindgren, and then with future trades that we'll get into here, big splashes.
I mean, I don't know if I'd really compare them to big splashes. I mean, they tried going all out last year, right? They brought in a lot more competitive assets than what they brought in this year. But we'll see. Time will tell, right? Like, they still could go into this year's playoffs and just dominate, right? I was having a conversation today, right? Like, how they were going up against a tough opponent in Winnipeg, right? Winnipeg won game 1 of the first round, and then we just gentlemen swept them the next 4. So.
But who was your better asset that you traded for last year? Like, you got Walker and Middlestat.
Sean Walker on D was much better, I think, than getting
Ryan
Lindgren.
Oh yeah, no way. Sean Walker is nowhere near the defender this year for Carolina.
Well, not for Carolina, but we're talking like last year's Sean Walker, right?
Lindgren has been a top 2 defenseman for like 5 years. Sean Walker,
because he was paired on New York's for second D, right? So, and then you got Brandon Duhaime, who is now on the Washington Capitals. Yannick Trenin, another big ad. Like, I don't know. But I do like Colorado's trades. We'll get into them here soon, though, so we'll break it down.
I think next up was the Michael Bunting trade. So Bunting for Novak and Luke Schenn, which, I mean, obviously Pittsburgh would later move Luke Schenn to Winnipeg. That's trade made no sense for either team, but hey, that's what happens sometimes.
Well, clearly Pittsburgh had a bigger goal in mind, right?
I was kind of like saying to myself, I'm like, Dubas really had a quiet deadline, right? It's been pretty known out there. A lot of reports circling around, it's been an abysmal year for the Pens, and Dubas is probably in sell now mode, like just get it done and over with. But also, there's another fact where they'll win a few games, they'll string a couple W's together, and it's like, just do a quiet little bit of a retool. We'll get back in the swing of things here. We'll build a great team around Sid. Dubas essentially this trade deadline just traded away what he essentially traded for a couple months prior to, right? Other than Michael Bunting, who they got from last year's trade deadline out of Jake Gensel out of Carolina. So I don't know. It's just weird. Cody Glass they brought in, and then now he's got shipped out to New Jersey. And then, so I don't know. It's just weird. Except for Phil Tomasino. He's still there, though.
Yeah, for Pittsburgh, though, this turned out to be pretty good. They turned Michael Bunting in a 4th into Tommy Novak a 2nd and a 4th, right? So, really not bad at all.
Not bad work. And then Tommy Novak obviously is the big addition for that, which was good. I like it. I like Novak. I think that.
Can I just say with Nashville though? Can I say that they're giving up on all the wrong guys? They said that they were gonna fold their veterans if things went bad. So far, they've gotten rid of Parsonins, Tommy Novak, Dante Fabro. Like they've gotten rid of everyone everyone younger than 30 basically got the axe. And then the guys over 30 that are underperforming are all still left there to try and figure it out, which doesn't make any sense to me. But that's just my take on them.
And then they got rid of Anthony Beauvillier today too, right?
Yep.
So I don't know. It was just weird. Ricard Wacal, ever since coming back from Four Nations Faceoff, started tearing it up. He probably could have fetched a pretty good package. Dubas intended just to keep him. Erik Karlsson's still a Penguin, but these guys probably could get moved before July 1st's free agent deadline. So who knows, right? But it was just weird.
We saw Ryley Smith come back to Vegas.
Yeah, that's a big one.
that was a surprising ad.
What do you think about that one, Dakota?
I've never really been a big fan of teams just recycling players. I don't know why, but it irks me. You see Tampa do it. You see Vegas is now doing it. I've never been a fan of teams recycling players. But
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, at the end of the day, I guess it's just whatever you think is going to help you win. And Vegas is clearly trying to stay that relevant team.
Yeah.
But I don't see them lasting much longer as a playoff team.
Really? I don't know. My only argue between, let's say Ryley Smith versus Yanni Gourde. Yanni Gourde, we lost an expansion draft due to no fault of his own. We just lost him. Whereas Ryley Smith, Vegas deemed not keepable due to not being a good enough player. And now all of a sudden he's a good enough player worth a 3rd. And Brendan Brisson, who I guess Pat Brisson has something to do with the Rangers, his dad. So I don't know what that's all about.
Well, I mean, Ryley Smith really started taking off again with Pittsburgh and then went to the Rangers. So, I mean, his value obviously went up because they wanted him back, right? So,
but it's also not just Yanni Gourde that you recycle, Riley. You've recycled Barre Boulay.
He got taken on waivers.
Ryan McDonough.
Who was, mistake to get rid of in the first place, but cap casualties, boys. You got to do
Nemesnikov.
Yeah, he's been back 3 times. He won't come back again. He's done. He not the fact that Tampa doesn't want him back. He's just like, guys, you've traded me 3 times. There's no way I'm coming back. But Yeah, I see what you're saying though. Who's
No.
next? Susie got
Yeah.
moved to Vancouver.
Which wasn't
They've had a
surprise.
quiet deadline.
Sturm to Florida. Dumoulin to New Jersey. Those are some, single trades that went down.
The one trade that I was saying to Dakota before we got rolling here that was weird to me was the Boston and Minnesota trade.
Yeah.
Boston acquiring Laco and Kuznetsov for Justin Brazeau. I'm not too sure what the fuck was going on there.
I don't know. And I'm actually looking at TSN does not have Lauco in the trade. It's a 6th-round pick now. Did Lauco get removed from the trade? Do you have it on your end?
Yeah.
Okay. He must still be in there then. But yeah, I thought that like Knut Nadinov or whatever, they were talking about him as like becoming one of the best defensive centermen in the league. And then just to give him and Lauco and a potential pickup for a guy who's had like one decent year on the 4th line or 3rd line in Boston, I don't really get what that is to me, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
You want to talk about recycled players? Detroit is also known for this too. Like off air, we were talking about Peter Mrazek getting another shot in Detroit, right? Like they're just bringing back another aged veteran goaltender into the system. Like, what did you say, Ryley? There was like 7, 8, or 9 goalies now in that system for Detroit.
Yeah, I think there's like 9 total, and their number 1 prospect is like in Kosa is like 7th on the depth chart or something. There's Talbot, there's Campbell, there's Mrazek. There's just
minus Billy Husso now though. He's a
Husso's gone.
He's still right. Like just a lot of just recycled players. P.O. Joseph heading back to Pitt. Like this was mentioned prior to this episode. Like. From St. Louis now back to Pittsburgh again. So it's just, I don't know.
No, that one, though, is a classic case of Pittsburgh wanted him and he chose to sign with his brother. And then St. Louis said, just kidding, Uno reverse card. Back you go, buddy. So,
which is fine. I like P.O. Joseph. So it's good that Pittsburgh gets him back. But
yeah, he's a good player.
Pittsburgh needs that on their D line. When you have Ryan Graves, God forbid, has 1 point in his first 38 games of the NHL season, that's alarming. That is, you guys signed him out of New Jersey for quite a big ticket, and not very noticeable out there, gentlemen.
Nope.
It's like 4.6 million or something like that a year.
No big deal. No big deal.
Let's start getting to the meat and potatoes of this trade deadline because, Christ,
we got one right here.
Some big names.
It's your Colorado Avalanche and their trade with the New York Islanders. Why don't you go through that? Because your let's just put anger in the group chat was expected. I knew it was coming. But let's go. Nelson and Dufour to Colorado from the Islanders for Shillington, Callum Ritchie, a 2026 first, and a conditional 2028 third.
Okay, well, from previous days prior to today's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time trade deadline, I knew that a couple centermen were on Colorado's target list, like Ryan O'Reilly. I would have loved to have seen a reunion, right? Previously, he was with the Avs. He's like, I want out. Matt Duchene says, I want out. And that Colorado was going through a tough time. I would have loved to see now today's Ryan O'Reilly come on today's Avalanche squad. That would have been lethal. Now, I also knew that Brock Nelson was on Colorado's trade target list, and I'm like, oh boy, please, let's not be those sorry guys that get him. Great player, don't get me wrong, but I'm like, I know this is just going to be a ridiculous package, and I don't want to see us end up having to pay for it. Ultimately, we did. Getting rid of your number 1 prospect in the system, Oshawa Generals forward Callum Ritchie, I'm like, brother, what are we doing? Right? Shillington, fine, send him off. The first, fine, send it off, whatever. But Callum Ritchie, I'm like, oh my God. Getting, former 2022 Q champ William Dufour out of St. John, perfect. He's a great prospect out of the Islander system. Great, send him over. But I'm like, really? But now the more that I look at it, as this was all last night's anger. I've kind of had a bit of a day to, kind of like really let it sit in my head, let it roll around a little bit. I'm like, you know what? Our 1, 2, 3, and 4 centermen flush down the middle is kind of lethal now. If you think of it, you got Nate McKinnon, you got Charlie Coyle now, you got Brock Nelson, and you got Jack Drury on that 4th center slot. So I'm not too disappointed in it, but I'm like, still, it's kind of a bit of an iffy haul.
Well, with these moves you're talking about, Colorado made themselves, I would say, arguably, like there's 3 teams in the West, which I think we'll go over at the end, and there's 3 teams in the East now, I would think, that all have a shot, and Colorado made themselves one of those teams without a doubt. That's what I'm thinking. So good for that.
I mean, I kind of repicked who I want to win the Stanley Cup this year just based on today's deadline, and I'm like, they're literally not on the wall behind me. Like, it's the Florida Panthers. I think they had probably arguably one of the better deadlines this year, but Dallas and both Colorado out of the Western Conference had a fairly strong, considerable asset grab. So, I mean, definitely one of these guys will be out of the Western Conference, but yeah.
And then from your trade there, we also saw Shillington get flipped immediately to the Anaheim Ducks for nothing.
Future considerations, yeah.
The Islanders didn't even want him. So that was just a part of roster management there, basically. We talked about Wallman. You talked about Beauvillier moved to the Capitals, Dally. Dak, I want to know your thoughts on this. Kuzmenko getting flipped with a 7th for a 3rd-round pick from LA. What's your thought on that? That's a pretty good haul for Kuzmenko. A 3rd?
Yeah, I guess now it would be. But I think that just kind of puts in perspective that Calgary won that trade.
Oh,
because we got 2 guys for essentially Peltier.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what Philadelphia is doing.
I think that Kuzmenko tried playing for Torts and it didn't work. That's my
I mean, he scored against Calgary. Just saying.
True.
But yeah, no, I don't know. Does he really suit the King system though?
No. Not at all. I don't think he fits in the NHL. And I don't want to be mean to the guy because I love his energy. He's top 5 personality in the NHL. Top 5. Doesn't understand English very well. Spurts random crap out of his mouth. Hilarious in interviews. Always smiling. Everything good. But his game, whatever he was scoring 80 points a year in the KHL, he can't even put up like 30 here. So I know he's close to that, but
it's tough just because he's got, like, you can see it in his game that he's got so much skill, but it's almost like he doesn't trust himself to make a good enough play. Whether he should pass it to the right person or just shoot it. And it's like, I'm pretty sure he came into this league as a sniper.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make the pass. Like, just do what you're used to and shoot the puck.
You know what? If he goes to free agency, I would love him in Tampa. Just saying. Like, just put him on a line with Cooch on a 1-year deal. Cheap. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But, like, let him try and play with another Russian who's, like, legit player. You never know. It could work out.
Is Michkov not a legit player?
But he's young. He can't lead Kuzmenko. Kucherov would be like, no, listen here, bud. This is where you're going.
It's probably true.
That's like Kucherov last night. Who all saw that, him getting sat?
Yeah, and he was pissed.
He's done that. I think he's doing it because he is so witty, and he does things like just for the bit, I swear, because last time they sat Kucherov, Stamkos, and Point last year, the whole line got sat, and Kucherov, same thing. Gloves on the bench, arms crossed. So I think he's just doing it just for fun because, like, he knew he was coming back to play. But I love what Cooper does when he does that because he basically tells the rest of the team that, like, okay, right now our best player literally just put 2 goals in the back of our own net, and I'm sitting him because he's playing like crap. So none of you are safe if you play like that, right? And it just sets an example to the whole team. And Kucherov takes it in stride, and then he came back out, assisted on the game-winning goal by Bjorkstrand. So all's fair. I think it's a great – and that's why Coop is such a good coach because he can get Nikita Kucherov to sit and then come back and be impactful.
Sit Connor McDavid. That's what I got out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Sit Connor McDavid.
Well, what about what? Go for it.
I was just going to say, so I brought this player up previously here. So Charlie Coyle is out of Beantown. I thought was a strong ad for the Avs. I really didn't think the Bruins were going to be sellers this year, guys. This is a team that's always looking to stay competitive, noticeable out there in the Atlantic Division. They're always top 3. Like, I think the tide is turning in Beantown. A couple other deals we'll get into, but yeah, like Charlie Coyle is off with a 5th-round pick to the Avs for which is now would have been left winger William Zellers would have been Colorado's #1 prospect in the pipeline. He is also now shipped off to Boston with a 2nd as well with Casey Middlestat. So, what are you guys' thoughts on the centerman swap?
Honestly, maybe Colorado's best deal for like when they needed to find one more piece. That might have been like the best piece. Like Charlie Coyle's an absolute fucking dog.
That's why I like this trade the most. The ones that the Avs made, yeah, for sure.
Like Casey Middlestat is soft. He's decent offensively, but Charlie Coyle's he's going to chip in 30 goals and 30 assists this year, while also getting like 120 hits and 70 block shots. Like this guy chips in everywhere, and he's PK center. Mm-hmm. He does everything. Like this is the type of fit that you find that wins you a cup. Like yes, Nelson's gonna help put pucks in the net. He's decent PK. Yes, Lindgren is a big deal on defense, but like it's like game 7 and you have to throw your third line out there and Charlie Coyle blocks a shot that on an like when it's going in the net type thing. Like that's the type of guy you're getting with him. So I love Charlie Coyle. I hated him on Boston, so thank God he's not there anymore.
Well, I trust Charlie Coyle more on the penalty kill than I would Brock Nelson, right? You got a guy that's a little bit younger, faster, so willing to go down and block a shot. So, yeah, I think the Charlie Coyle deal is one of the Avs' best ones so far out of the 25 trade deadline.
Yeah. I have I think you have this one next too, Colton, but can I say this is the worst trade of the trade deadline? All the hype surrounding Dylan Cousins, and they get Josh Norris and Jacob Bernard Docker in Buffalo as the return. And then they also not only do they send Dylan Cousins, they give a 2nd-round pick and they give a depth defender. Sure, that's probably just for roster management wise. But Dylan Cousins and a 2nd get some Josh Norris, who's 1 injury away from not playing again, and Jacob Bernard Docker, who's a failed defensive prospect. Were the trades really that bad? Was that really the best option? For Dylan Cousins, like, you know, what were you hearing, Colton?
Like for a return for Buffalo?
Yeah, like that's terrible. That's a horrible return.
Yeah, not good. Sends fleeced that one because Cousins is going to be a superstar, and like you said, Norris is 1 fucking wind gust away from retiring, so. I don't know. Kevin Adams' job is definitely going to probably be on the line here. It should be, but you go and you lock up guys like Jason Zucker and Jordan Greenway for $10 million, and I think that says a lot right there.
Your young star center is the guy who needs to go. Like you just signed him to a 7-year deal at a very, very good cap hit for who he is. But so Kevin Adams, like you said, he said they were making hockey trades. They wanted equal value on players on the roster. I would say Jacob Bernard Docker is worse than Dennis Gilbert. Josh Norris is multiple steps below Dylan Cousins.
I think Bernard Docker is still like a mid prospect though. Like,
yeah,
he still has time to flourish because the biggest problem is the ice time and just the depth in Ottawa. Like Shabbat and guys like that, like Sanderson, overtake him, right? Tyler Cleven overtakes him on the depth chart. I don't know.
Yakimchuk would overtake him too, for sure.
And there you go too, right? But I don't know, like for a guy that's a former 1st-round pick and a guy that had a lot of upside and showed offensive talent when he was with North Dakota, you would have thought there'd be a little bit more, but I don't know. Buffalo gets a guy that maybe can move the puck a little bit more, and we'll see.
But I would argue too that Buffalo's defense core is more clogged up than Ottawa. Ottawa traded Chychrun away. Ottawa stopped trying to force Lassie Thompson into the lineup, right? Like the door last year, they literally said it's Jacob Bernard Docker's spot to lose when they gave him the 6D. Not only did he lose it, Not only did he lose 70, he got sent straight to the minors for the rest of the year. So, like,
Yeah.
I don't who's he going to be? He's not ahead of Owen Power. He's not ahead of Rasmus Dahlin. He's not ahead of Bowen Byram. All of a sudden, he's in the same situation.
Dude, honestly, Buffalo is just doing Buffalo things, man.
Yeah.
Buffalo would have been better off doing or getting the return that they didn't want, which is prospects and picks.
Well, they did everything in their power to get the hometown kid in there, Alex Tuck, right? Not so long ago. And then they made it public saying, yeah, if the deal's right, we're going to ship him off. And your Tampa Bay Lightning, Ryley, was one of the front runners with, the LA Kings as well. And then obviously he never did get moved. So I don't know. It's just so weird with Buffalo.
Obviously, because I think that there was rumors Tampa was in on both JJ Peterka and Alex Tuck.
Yeah.
And then they pivoted to Seattle, gave them 2 firsts, a second, and a player. And if it was more than that for those two, right? Like,
it was the better trade because Yanni Gord, he knows John Cooper's system. So it's like, well, it's literally, you just need a little bit of a refresher, and here you go.
Yes and no, because JJ Peterka is a 23-year-old that's potentially going to score 40 goals. That you don't find those very often, but like, yeah, for Tampa's fit, I do like the trade that we made, but yeah.
Yeah, but you saw like Bjorkstrand too, so that just helps.
Yeah, Bjorkstrand. And he signed for next year too, which is a big deal.
Yeah, the term speaks a lot in that case.
And the departure of you were talking like Bernard Docker, like now Ottawa kind of made up for that too. I mean, yes, you sent out a good prospect in Zach Ostapchuk, but you're also bringing in like a really great asset in Fabian Zederlund. So I mean, boy, like Ottawa kind of did almost steal the show a little bit today.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I was kind of past the trade, but now I'm going back to it. So if you go value for value, they traded Josh Norris for Dylan Cousins, removed Dennis Gilbert from the equation. He was just a player to be added in there for contract purposes. Then you gave us a second-round pick for Jacob Bernard Docker. Like, that's crazy to me. Norris and Cousins 1-for-1, and then a second for Bernard Docker. That's just the value on both of those is ridiculously off. Dylan Cousins could have fetched a first and a prospect.
Right, we all thought Vancouver was going to go in on Cousins, right, when we were making our mock trades, but that was surprising.
And like Calgary would have easily been able to fork over a pick and a prospect.
Yep, I agree.
What about Philly getting Nikita Grabenkin and a first for Scott Laughton? I think everybody knew he was going to Toronto, though.
I think
great. Yeah, it was good, but I've seen a lot of Leafs fans were actually kind of pissed about Nikita Grabenkin. So I don't know. It's good that they got Scott Laughton, but
sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say they can shut up because they're tired of their team not making it to Stanley Cup final, but they want to hang on to every prospect. That was my only point.
Yeah, you got to win sometime, right? Like you have to be in win now mode, right? So you have to give up something to get over that hump, right? Have an extra guy come in, to help you get past the first round, my guy.
Win now mode with a potential of losing Marner next season.
Yep, and Tavares.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
now, did I see Minton getting traded over Easton Callan though? No,
that was a shocker.
Well, here's my thing. This is the reverse of what Colton said, where Toronto, I bet, was more willing to trade Callan, but teams were wanting Minton more, right? It's the reverse. Minton is the higher-ranked prospect in the system, so teams wanted Minton. They didn't want Callan. That's my take on it. Like it's not that the Leafs didn't want to trade Callan. It's that when Callan was offered instead of Minton, teams went, no, we want that kid instead. That's obviously I don't know
the team too, right? He's had NHL experience too. He's proven his time in Toronto with the club.
Exactly.
But I also wanted to bring up, gentlemen, like the fact that there was an offer. There was an offer by the Leafs. They were going to sign Mikko Rantanen if that trade would have went down, an 8x13 $13 million AAV. And part of that package would have been those two prospects. You brought up Minton and Cowan, and 2 firsts. Like,
Yep.
I thought it
And
was
they-
different.
Carolina really just settled
that
with
was good, I
Dallas,
think.
right?
That's the one I saw, Colton, was 2 prospects and 2 firsts.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one I sent in the chat.
But speaking of that, the
It's a
Mikko
weird
Rantanen trade did happen.
And
I
there
don't know
are
if you can
300 people in BC right now
Not
that
happy.
are pissed.
More than that, 300 travelers that are pissed, but
Mhm.
a lot of people in this city are not happy. But go for it, Colton. Break it down for us.
Well, I mean, I think it all started last night when I'll bring up the text message. I won't show it, but I got a text last night at 10 p.m. exactly that read, if Rantanen agrees to the extension, the package is including Logan Stankoven. And to say I sat on that one for a bit is an understatement. Eventually texted Jeff Merrick and asked him about it, and one thing led to another, and Merrick's tweet went out this morning, and the trade happened. I don't know, man. We just said that he's untouchable, and here he is getting traded. So,
But this is a big deal. Rantanen is a top 10 player in the NHL. It's
So-
top 10 forward.
I think what happens is when you're, I don't know, like, hey, without giving names, the guy I talked to in Dallas today told me that when you're presented with a player of Mikko Rantanen's caliber, you don't say no.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who it's for. You don't say no.
Exactly.
It's about winning now and winning the Stanley Cup. And Rantanen fits into that Finnish mold that they have with Hintz and Heiskanen and Lindell, etc. I don't know. Giving up Stankoven, I think, is crazy. Giving up 2 first-round picks as well, also batshit insane. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do think it works out, though. I mean, you drafted Wyatt Johnson the same year as Stankoven. You just signed him to, what, a 5-year extension?
Yep, 5
8.4
years,
mil.
8.4. So
yeah, and you get Rantanen, you lose Stankoven. I mean,
you sign Rantanen into your extension.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think it's a win-win both ways. Logan's obviously going to see more ice time. He's probably going to see more power play. I think he's going to fit Carolina's system maybe a little bit better. It does suck as a fan of Logan to see him go from Dallas, but Dallas's track record for trading Blazers away
Is
is
100%.
insane.
It's 100%.
No, because the only Blazer I think I've seen them not trade is Cole Yuli.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
I think
I mean,
brought it-
Semenoff is still in the
Well,
system right now, boys.
Yeah, he brought it away in that system.
They didn't trade
Yeah.
Lowen. He walked. I mean, Semenoff, yeah, Semi's still there, but
Semi is still there. That's true for now.
Hashtag
But-
free Semenoff.
yeah.
Free
Should have
stink,
been in the
man.
trade.
Definitely
But-
a trade I didn't think I'd ever see, though. But, like, I mean, you can't now look ahead and say that Dallas isn't the best in the West. Like, they are. After this, on paper, they are now the best in the West. Like, they have the best shot, I think, at a Stanley Cup.
I just don't know if that's true. I look, this is me personally, Dally. I love Colorado. I think that what fucking Colorado did is insane. I just think that team. Here's the one thing about Dallas is that they're fucking injury prone. They deal with a lot of injuries.
Well,
If
we do.
somehow you guys get Landeskog back, somehow, doesn't look like it, but if somehow, then geez, what a team you guys will have.
And if Jason Robertson for the Stars could get back to his prime form, they'd even be more lethal.
First
But-
line is Robertson, Hintz, Rantanen. By the way,
That's crazy.
You can't beat that place. You just can't.
The triple R's, Robertson, Rupe, and Rantanen.
I mean, I think it was good for Mikko in his camp twos because I did bring up that, what if with Toronto scenario with that package they offered Carolina. I think that Mikko Rantanen really wanted the Dallas Stars more because Texas is a tax-free state.
Oh, for
And then
sure.
if he would have gone to Toronto, he would literally have to fork over the government a boatload in taxes. And he's probably like, yeah, I don't think so, Chief.
Well, what was
See ya.
William Nylander? William Nylander's 11.5 million was actually going to be payout of 6.1 or something, right? So he's losing
Yeah.
$5.5 million of his contract, and whereas Rantanen's going to get about 8. He's going to lose about 4 million, but that's not as much.
And here's the thing, though. I'm not too in the know of Colorado state tax laws, but dude, Colorado offered the man 12 million.
Yeah,
Right?
those
He
are
said
pretty
no.
standard.
But that's
They're-
okay. We
they're-
got
by the
Nathan
way-
and Drury, so GG's.
By the way, Wyatt Johnston and Mikko Rantanen share the same agent.
Interesting.
Talk about a payday for that fucking guy.
Same day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Same
what I'm
day.
getting at. That's what I'm getting at. So I don't know. Like Stankoven, obviously, like you go to Carolina's lines, Stank's third line right now with Kotkaniemi and Taylor Hall. That's pretty disgusting. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
What I think Carolina needs to do is put him back to where he belongs, though, which is the center position. Stop making him play
Yes.
right fucking wing.
He's too small to be a winger. Defenseman can just come down and close the gap on him.
He uses his leverage, his size, like his shorter size, but his stockiness to win his faceoffs. That's why he was so fucking good in the WHL. We had
Yep.
faceoffs. That's why
Power
he
play-
dominated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Power play makes sense on the wing, but go back to center, right? I mean, his junior career was notably on the, at the center dot. So
Yep.
The nice thing is KK can play wing as well. So maybe they do switch it up. But like, in all honesty, I want to see Stankoven on a line with Jarvis. That's what I want to see. I think you get a line of like Jarvis, Stank, and Hall, or Jarvis, Stank, and maybe Aho. I don't know how you would get it to work, but it'd be pretty disgusting. It'd be very fast,
Yeah.
right? Like, it'd be a very fast and technical style of hockey. But
yeah, and Stankoven needs those experienced guys too on his line to help him score and help them score as well, right? Like that just helps
Yeah.
improve his game and evolve, right? So if he
Yeah.
had like an Aho on his line or a Seth Jarvis would be amazing. Like think of it, like
So-
he's had Jamie Benn and Matt Duchene on his lines when he was rocking that first and second line. So and it really showed.
Carolina does have him on the second power play unit right now too, with Hall, Kotkaniemi, Jarvis, and Burns. So that's good.
Yeah.
That
I don't
is
know.
good.
Colton, you and me were debating this in the chat, and we said we'd hold it off for this because I think that all this stuff that just happened this year from Eric Tulsky warrants firing. I think it shows that he's not ready. He took a Carolina team that everyone said was potentially a Stanley Cup final team, and he has made them an almost automatic round one exit in the Metro. Almost automatic. Not automatic because the Rangers aren't that good. The Islanders aren't that good. The Penguins aren't that good, right? Columbus is there. They're okay. But like they got worse. So and you kind of said to me like they're looking, Eric Tulsky said they were looking for the future. Okay, well, when he traded for Rantanen, he literally had a press conference and said, we're in win now mode. This team needs to win now, and this is a move you make when you're going to win now. And then he trades Rantanen away, and he says, we're looking to the future. What? What do you mean? You can't just switch up your message.
Well, you can. The direction of the team can change based off your win percentage and how the last few weeks have gone, right? Like,
yeah, but he put them there. He traded their team that was humming, traded Nietzsche, who's one of the best young stars, traded Jack Drury, who was just finding his footing.
Because when the trade happened, everybody thought that Rantanen was going to just flourish. So it had nothing to do with Nietzsche being a star. It was about getting the better player.
Yeah, I know, but it's not his fault necessarily that Rantanen did it, but the way that he went about it, making it sneaky, making it not known to Rantanen, all that stuff, it all bit him in the ass. And sure, he could, and then what I was talking about was he noted in his press conference, by the time the Rantanen thing unfolded, it was too late to try and flip the assets. it also, by the way, he got a 2026 and 28 first round picks, and
That's
they're
fine.
both
That's
top
okay.
10 protected.
That's a good haul.
But 2028 top 10 protected for Dallas, like
You can still trade it.
yeah, you can,
Still
but
an
it's like
asset.
I don't know. I think that he just got too bold and bit off way more. I'm not saying he should be fired. I'm just saying that if other GMs had this run of like moves, that they would be heavily
Don Sweeney
considered.
has been a general manager for like 11 years and has not been fired.
Yeah, but some teams are stupid and hanging. Like, look at Yzerman in Detroit. I love Yzerman, but like,
He's
he's
driven
not
that team
good
into
there.
the ground.
It just makes Carolina's GM just look like a pushover. And I made that joke to you guys earlier. Like Carolina is literally looking like the rental player capital of the NHL, right? Look how Jake Gensel events unfolded last
They
year.
knew that though. I think
They pretended like they didn't, even if they did know, they say that they didn't.
They made a joke with Jesper Kotkaniemi too, right? Like you're like, oh, let's just make a joke and match a ridiculous offer for the Habs, and they way overpaid for him. And now the Mikko Rantanen situation.
Yeah, that's fair. I still think. I mean, he got more for Rantanen than he did for Natchez, though.
Yeah, the ins and outs is great. I mean, I know Carolina is still looking pretty good.
Tulsky can take both those second rounders at the draft and flip them for a roster player right there.
Exactly, because they're still relevant. They're still in win now mode. They're nowhere near even a rebuild thought. So
no,
exactly.
And Stank will be a crucial part of that team now going forward. So I don't know. We'll see. With him being under Rod as well, I think that'll be different. I think Rod will deploy him differently, and it'll be a much better ordeal for him in the grand scheme of things. Another big trade. Shea Weber got traded. Oh my God.
Yeah, Shea.
That doesn't matter. Colorado got Eric Johnson back, which was, I guess, no surprise to anybody. They always
right. What a good pickup too, Gally. I totally forgot about that. So you guys got Lindgren, and you got Johnson, and you got
Philly.
Yeah, you got Nelson, Dufour, and Coyle up front. Like
another recycled player.
Yep, another recycled player.
Well, if it wasn't just Mac, it was literally Eric Johnson, who was the longest tenured player on that 22 Stanley Cup run, other than Gabriel Landeskog. So it was crazy having Eric Johnson back. It's a great piece. It's a great veteran presence in that locker room, and I'm sure the boys are ecstatic to have him back. Right, Jared Bednard, coach. I know he's probably happy to have Eric back, so it'll be good.
Sam Malinsky's now on the outside looking in, like, oh.
Well, yeah, because I mean, Sam Malinsky's going to really either go back to the Colorado Eagles or just stay as the 7th D, right? I mean, you have to give Eric Johnson his spot back in that lineup.
Yeah, he's a top 6 D still in the league. No,
Curtis McDermott, another defenseman that's probably not going to see a lot of ice time now. So,
yep.
What about this trade? This was a big one. Pretty big. Bradley Marchand going to Florida.
Disgusting.
Yeah. For only a conditional second in 2027. I'm sure it becomes a 27 or 28 first if Florida wins 2 rounds of the Stanley Cup and Marchand plays 50% of the playoff games and Boston retain 50%. So, I mean, essentially they get a first-round pick for like what is he, 36? 36-year-old captain. Like, that's a good value. He's going to play, as long as he doesn't get hurt, he's going to play 50%.
Me and Dakota were talking all day about this after that happened. I'm like, dude, this is going to be the best agitation line in the entire National Hockey League. All 3 of those guys are 30 to 40 goal scorers at best, and also they're the biggest agitators in the league. Like, all 3 of them on the same line, like nightmare fuel.
Who's the third guy?
For opposing teams.
I know you're talking about Kachuk. You're talking about Kachuk and Marchand, but who's the third?
With Bennett, Sam Bennett.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So
that's a deadly line, actually.
I wouldn't want to play those clocks.
Oh God. Yeah, and you know what? Right now, Tampa, like, dude, I'm actually all for the 1 to 8 coming back, because we're going to have either Colorado, Dallas, and Winnipeg. 2 of them are one of them's eliminated first round, and Florida, Tampa, Toronto. One of them is eliminated first round. Like
Toronto.
Well, maybe it could be. Toronto's in first in the division, or they were. Florida's
Buddy,
up
but
now.
they're always doing great in the regular season.
Yeah, but what if they win the division? It's Tampa versus Florida in the first round. Like that's a freaking
okay. Then
bloodbath.
Toronto can chant, "We want Florida again," and just get swept.
Yeah, I don't know.
True. I think that I hope
who
we
just
get a
had the
Florida.
rice rocket go past their house.
That's me. I don't know. Made my dogs mad.
I hope Toronto and Florida play each other in the first round, so those teams just fucking kill one another, man. God damn. That would be the best for the Eastern Conference.
And you know what? I think Florida's going to come out on top.
Damn right they will.
Do you guys think that they could repeat again this year? Be the first since the
100%.
I got them as my pick.
I don't see why they couldn't. Obviously biased. I hope that they don't, but I mean what they've done is second to no one. They did more than everyone else. Even they shored up their backup goaltender. They shored up their defense in a big way. They shored up their offense in a big way. Like no one else hit every piece of their team the way that these guys did, and without subtracting anything.
Well, even
and you know
last
what?
year too.
Their trade seemed pretty evenly distributed between both teams for what they've done. I mean, Spencer Knight to Chicago, night 1, 41 saves, wins. And then even Seth Jones in Florida played phenomenal. So seems like their trades are working out both ways and doesn't seem one-sided like we were just talking about with Cousins.
Exactly. They really didn't lose their championship caliber team, right? I mean, like you re-signed Ekblad like you wanted. I mean, you did lose Brendan Montour, but that's okay. Like you're still looking really strong.
Wait, hold up. Did you say they re-signed Ekblad?
No, he just stayed. They didn't re-sign Ekblad. He's on his last year of his deal.
Oh, I thought his contract was up last summer.
His contract's up this year.
Yeah, this summer, yeah.
Him and Bennett.
But sorry, you weren't here last episode, Dally, when we were breaking that down. That's why. So don't worry. But yeah.
Fair enough.
So what I said in that episode, like I brought that up, right? Like Seth Jones is now your replacement for Aaron Ekblad going forward. Like because they can't afford Ekblad next year. So
I know a team in Florida that could use a guy like Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah, I know a team in
for that price
that could use him too.
But I know a team in Alberta that could probably use him too.
Yeah, except he's probably going to Dallas. Let's be honest here.
If he goes to Dallas, man, they actually like. I understand where people are coming from though. Like the states with no tax, man. Like
they attract players.
They're dominating. They are absolutely dominating. Florida and Texas, Vegas, Nevada, Arizona when they were a team. Like even though people didn't want to necessarily go to Arizona because they weren't winning, but they went there for money.
Yeah,
like. You know, you guys are moving? Sure, I'll take extra money.
Canadian teams, don't the players get paid in US dollar as well?
When they're in the US, they get paid in US.
No, I think it's all full US. I think every paycheck is US dollars. Because it's paid by like the National Hockey League has to be paid in American.
Hey, dude. A team that's really hurting on D, another Canadian team. British Columbia's own Vancouver Canucks. Dude, they got $13.3 million in cap space as we are recording this episode right now. So they could honestly go into the offseason and say, hey, Aaron, you want to come play for Canada? Sure. That is Vancouver Canuck.
And they're probably trying to sweet talk Besser with that 13 mil. Not that he's going to get 13 mil, but probably a good chunk of it.
Am I wrong for wanting Besser to move on? The way that they treated him when he wasn't scoring 30 goals a year, the way that they said he wasn't worth anything and how they wouldn't they said that they weren't getting fair value to trade him, and now all of a sudden he's untradeable no matter the value. I hate it when GMs do that. We couldn't trade him no matter what we got.
The big thing I have about it is who on earth said he was supposed to score 30 or 40 goals? He's a fucking end of the first round pick. Why would anybody think he's going to score 30 goals in this league? I don't know whatever Vancouver media outlet fucking put that together when he got drafted and has just continuously ran with it is fucking stupid.
I think because he scored 40 as a rookie, didn't he?
He would have almost got rookie of the, or he was number one in rookie scoring until he injured.
Yeah.
And
So
then I
I
think
think the standard way too high.
Tanner
Yeah.
fucking Chanel scored 21 goals or 24 goals 1 year. Who cares?
Yeah,
Like-
we gave up a first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and Cal Foot for those 21 goals.
So if anything, I agree with what Ryley says. Like, I hope Besser moves on and goes up and puts up a fucking 50-goal season and a 100-point season with another team.
I mean, not even just Besser. Is it bad to say that I hope Vancouver just goes through an all-out dumpster fire?
Well, they probably will because they're owner. So.
Loses Quinn Hughes for nothing, lose Besser
they
for
probably will.
nothing.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck with an $11.6 million Pedersen.
What about Brady Kachuk's press conference today? Dude practically was in tears about Norris leaving. So maybe that
was honest. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Like, who do you think is gonna leave first as captain of a Canadian team? Is it gonna be Brady Kachuk or Quinn Hughes out west here?
It'll be Brady.
It'll be Brady. Well, he's also gone through it. Like, this could be his 8th year in a row with the Ottawa Senators of not making playoffs, right? So it's literally like very questionable.
Brady is annoyed. He has been annoyed for 3 or 4 years with the situation in Ottawa, whereas Quinn Hughes has had winning hockey and he has been trusted to lead that team. And whereas, like we just learned, like Kachuk has been trusted to lead that team, and then they just keep, Jacob Chikrin, look at the revitalization he's having in Washington this year. And now they trade his best friend, and he's like crying in an interview, and he's like, I don't even want to be here, and I want to go back to America, which obviously he didn't say. I'm making that up, but essentially that is not wrong. Like, he wants to go back to America. You
lost the bargaining chip, essentially, right? You lose a good friend in him, and it's like, why should I even stay around? Why should I stick around? You think you're gonna waste some money in my face and call it a day? Like, nah. Like, there's really no real advantages of you keeping me here, right? Like, we're never making playoffs. You honestly just traded my best friend. Like, see you later, boss.
Hold up. No offense to Sam Bennett, but why did Florida not make the call of Sam Bennett and, let's say, Aaron Ekblad to Ottawa for Brady Kachuk, just to get the conversation started? That's not a bad, and they both have to have extensions lined up. Obviously, you're not giving them rentals, but like, really,
because that doesn't do Florida good right now.
No, I know the Ekblad. They need Ekblad more than they need Kachuk. But you know what I mean. Like, if you want to get both Kachuk brothers, like that is where you would start with those two.
Oh my god, dude! Could you imagine the Kachuk brothers, Bennett, Marchand, dude? Oh,
and doesn't Nick Cousins play for that team? Isn't he still there?
Oh my god, dude, that would be insane.
I hate.
Might be wrong about Nick Cousins, but
Nick Cousins. I think he's in Ottawa actually. Speaking of the Devils.
Oh yeah, he is in Ottawa now. He is in Ottawa. I should know that he was.
I hate Nick Cousins so much. Actually,
we got one more trade to get to, and then we can continue. But what about our other boy, our other Kamloops boy, Fraser Minton, getting dealt out to Boston with a first-round pick and a fourth for Brandon Carlo? Neat.
It sucks that I can't be a fan of him anymore. It really kind of hurts. The fact that he went to Boston, like, it's just over right there. Just sorry, bud.
Oh, you were a fan of him, though, when he was in Toronto. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but nobody likes Boston, dude.
Yeah, but nobody likes Boston.
True. It's because we live in BC.
I don't even look at it from a Bruins standpoint, guys. It's good for them because they may have been sellers this year, but they're actually starting to consider their prospect pipeline. Say, okay, like, we need some future assets here. Let's start getting some, middle depth, prospects. This is perfect for them. I think they actually won this trade.
But now, hold up. With that being said, though, with Boston getting rid of these key players, though, what happens to Swayman?
Yeah, true. Do they move on from Swayman? Do they trade him for a Jesper Wallstedt? Do they trade him for Sebastian Cossa? Right? I think you said that, Dallas. Trade him to Detroit, right? For Cossa, I think.
Because I doubt Swayman wants to be part of a rebuild.
No.
Little ticker here. So basically, me and Dakota were looking at a post earlier. And Mikey DiPietro, former Windsor Spitfire, he is killing it for Providence right now in the Bruins system. So even if Swayman were still around, or if it could be DiPietro's net soon, like, you still got a good goalie coming up soon, right? So never say never, of having that star franchise goalie again. If DiPietro keeps up his great numbers, he could even come in either be Swayman's backup or even replace him down the road here soon. So who knows, right? But I say their goalie situation could be kept under wraps. Definitely go out and get another good good goalie, and then even if Korpisalo's still around, for Boston, there you go, right? That could be your new starter. Definitely not as good as Swayman, but you're still solid in that.
Let's be real, though. They didn't get that much worse. They got Casey Middlestad. They got Knut Snedinov. They got Lauko. They got Minton, who should be in the NHL right away for them. Like, yes, they didn't necessarily replace Brandon Carlo, but overall, like, they got younger and worse, but they didn't get like so miserably bad that there's no coming back.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Here's the thing. I think that they just looked at the Atlantic and the next 5 years and they went, that's Florida, Tampa, and Toronto's baby. Like, they could fucking kill each other for the next 5 years, and then we'll have a team ready to go in 5 years. And we're going to be semi-competitive, and we're not going to rebuild, but we're just going to get cap, add a player, get cap, add a player, get cap, add a player. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, here we are back as the Boston Bruins again, which I'm going to hate.
I mean, it's been 6 years since they've been to the Stanley Cup final. And then even before that, it was 8 years, right? So they're really not that too much of a threat in the Atlantic Division. Yes, they're a pest in the playoffs. But if you think of it, it's been 6 years since their last appearance, and then an additional 8 years before that. So really, if you think about it, Boston's still kind of like, good in the regular season, pretty ass in the playoffs. So I wouldn't worry too much about it for you, Ryley, as an Atlantic Division fan. So
I'm just happy to see that they totally did the full pivot for once. Because really, I mean, the Boston Bruins have been going since 2005, since they traded Joe Thornton away. Like, they have been essentially just going for 2 decades of competitive hockey. And it's I'm happy they only have 1 cup to show for it, but like, they've been to a lot of heavy game situations.
I mean, I wouldn't say since Joe Thornton, because they did have Tyler Seguin at pick 2.
Yeah, but they went to the
Stanley Cup
and then that year. Yeah, they won the cup. So like, somehow they fell to second pick and then won the cup. Like, I forget if that was a trade or how they got that pick, but like, yeah, the Joe Thornton high pick, first overall, and then traded him away. What was it, 04 or 03? They traded him away, and then they turned their whole team around right there.
Yeah. But I don't know. At least Don Sweeney finally did something. That's all I can say.
I think, but Brandon Carlo playing with Morgan Ryley, that's a good pair.
It works Boston, out.
They did add Jokiharju from Buffalo too for only a 4th round pick. Like, that's crazy. Jokiharju went for only a 4th. He's not that good.
No, but
no, it was a trade. Yeah.
They also got rid of former Sioux Greyhound Connor Timmins, also former Av.
Yep.
To the Penguins, and that there's a 3-team trade, right? Which I didn't really understand why Pittsburgh really was in the mix of that 3-team trade. It was essentially just Toronto and Boston, but they also got Connor Dewar and Connor Timmins sent it back to the Steel City. So
that's because Toronto was over roster limit, so they sent 2 players, a forward and a defense. Coincidentally, Lawton and Carlo. They sent 2 guys out, and it was for cap reasons too. They just got under the cap floor, or cap ceiling, I guess. But Colton, we forgot to talk about Fabian Zetterlund to Ottawa.
Oh, yeah,
we talked about that earlier, brother.
Yeah, Dally brought that up.
Did you bring it up?
Yeah, because remember when I said, okay, you're losing Zach Ostapchuk in the system, and also really taking Bernard Docker's place, it's Fabian Zetterlund. So that's what I said. With that, Ottawa kind of was looking like the stars almost of this trade deadline, right? They got a great couple additions up front.
They're one of the winners, that's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry,
the true winners are Dallas, of course, because they were able to not only facilitate a fucking blockbuster, but then they also re-signed and extended both of the fucking guys, Rantanen and Johnston. But and goddamn, Wyatt they got him pretty cheap. Like,
oh yeah, that's cheap.
8.4 for 5 years. Oh baby. Wait till that next contract hits and he's making $12 million a year.
Before we wrap this up, though, I think let's just talk about like the actually competitive teams that are left in the market. Like, are the Edmonton Oilers? So let's just go Pacific Division. Edmonton would be the only team. Are they even a horse to consider anymore? Like, to me, they died today. That was
No.
it. Like,
I think without a true good goalie, no.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they have a very good chance just out of the fact that they're in the Pacific of making the Western Conference Final. But are they beating Winnipeg, Colorado, or Dallas?
No.
The Central's coming up on top out of the West for sure. No doubt.
Because at that point, I think you rely too much on McDavid and Draisaitl being your play drivers, and they're just going to get tired out. They're going to get gassed, and you don't have a goalie to take on the depth of those teams.
Sorry, Colton.
No, I think that's right. Like, you will get goalied at the end of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, McDavid can score as many as he possibly can, and so can Draisaitl. But it's about,
like I think Stewart will steal the show for maybe a couple of games, but I think even he'll get gassed just because Winnipeg's so deep, Dallas is so deep.
Yep.
I think that they were looking at Gibson though, and then Gibson obviously got injured, and then that kind of just went up in the air. So
if Stuart Skinner still had his numbers from last year, his save percentage and his goals against average, I'd probably say Edmonton has the best shot, coming out of that Pacific Division. But they could go up against a juggernaut from the Central. But honestly, we haven't seen that Stuart Skinner, and in Calvin Pickard, his backup hasn't really been that true number 2. So it's kind of just they're going with it, and the lackluster defenseman in front of them. You're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So
yeah.
I don't think they're going back to the West Final.
That Skinner got pulled for Pickard for multiple games. And if I'm the Oilers, the only team that I want to match up with is Colorado, because maybe Mackenzie Blackwood isn't playing his best. Maybe. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, Mackenzie Blackwood doesn't have any playoff experience, really. He, notoriously doesn't have a very good NHL career. Obviously, in Colorado, he's changing those thoughts.
Well, that's not exactly true, though, because 2 years ago, when he was doing really good with New Jersey, there was a lot of people pegging him to be the Four Nations goalie for Canada.
That's true. But that injury that he got there, that's what derailed him before they moved.
Well, even if he has an off night, Rye, I mean, he's got, former Nashville Predators goaltender, Scott Wedgwood to back him up. That's a really solid 1-2 punch in net for the Colorado Avalanche.
So, yeah, Wedgwood's good. I still like everyone else's goalies over Edmonton's in the West. And that includes a lot of teams, like, just a lot I would pick over theirs. So I don't know. But let's take it to the East then. Here's the big question. Did the Washington Capitals stay so stagnant that they have essentially removed themselves from the top competitors? They're first in the league. They're humming. They added Anthony Beauvillier. I get that when you have a good team, you want to keep it rolling. But when we have seen the best team in the league not add anything, typically they're out by round 2 or 3. Typically.
I don't know if you've noticed, but they have 2 really solid goaltenders.
They do.
Both locked down with term.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter for this year.
I wouldn't take them out of the race still, though. They're still pretty good.
No, I'm saying, are they better than Florida? Did they make themselves at this deadline comparable to Florida after they were undoubtedly the best team? Like, I'm giving them full props for the whole up to this point. Washington has been second to none best team in the league. Winnipeg was kind of close there for a bit, but then Washington spread the gap. But did they do anything that inspired that they're going to be better than Florida?
They were a little bit smarter because they did all their trades early, right? Off season. So they got that chemistry building quicker, and that locker room presence, morale with the guys, building the relationships well. Like, as for Florida, at the trade deadline, getting all these new guys in there, like, who's to say they even, click with all their new teammates, right? So it was kind of like what we talked about a long time ago with, Saginaw out of the OHL, how they got all their trades early. They built that chemistry with the entire team. They got comfortable. They were confident. So I think Washington didn't really need to make any moves because they are confident in the locker room that they have now. And they built on that confidence and success early on. So they really didn't even need to make any moves, sort of say.
So when they lose to Columbus, whose fault is it?
Yeah, but what are the odds that Washington might not even care about winning the cup, and they're more so just looking at the fact that Ovechkin's retiring soon, and we just want to see history getting made.
Which is fair enough, right? Like, I agree that, but here's the thing. That was a fun side quest when they were bad. Now they're good, and I think Ovechkin wants to win. He doesn't just want the record, which of course he does, but why would he not want a second Stanley Cup? I think that he sees this team and he wants to go for it.
It's true. I think the goaltending tandem that they have in Washington is fine.
I'm not all worried about their goaltending. I'm just saying, did the team stay where they were? They were top team in the league. Are they still the top team in the league after today? That's where I'm at.
I probably flutter out a little bit, but
I think that all comes down to all the guys' careers that they've rejuvenated. Can they keep that up in playoffs?
Yeah, can PLD keep playing like a third overall pick?
Yeah, can PLD do it? Can Strome do it? Can Mangiapane do it?
McMichael?
Yeah, McMichael, can he do it? Like
Rasmus Sandin, John Carlson.
But that's like the big thing, though, is the guys are all bought in right now and having fun and trying to do this for Ovi, and there's a big incentive with it. And personally, I think once Ovi hits the record, that entire team's going to flutter right out completely. Yeah. But I don't know, though, right? Like that's the what if scenario. That's pure speculation. Like he could hit that mark in 3 weeks, and then they could just go, okay, cool, we did it. See ya.
Yeah. Well, okay, right? So then who are your top 3 teams in the East?
Well, so
all of you. You can all say different ones if you want.
Florida, Tampa, Washington.
Yeah, mine is the same.
I still think Washington's fine. I don't know.
I think they're better than Toronto. I was just, saying, but they before it was Washington, Florida, and then there was kind of a mix, right? Now I think it's the gap has closed from Washington to everyone else. But what about you, Dally and Dak? Who are your top 3?
Well, you just shit on Toronto. I was going to say Toronto.
But you can pick Toronto. I don't care.
See, but I don't want to be that guy, because then I'll be that guy and be like, you know what, this is Toronto's year, and then I'm going to be made a joke like every other Toronto fan.
What
I see, but
I just can't get past Joseph Wall and Anthony Stolarz are somehow supposed to win those guys a Stanley Cup. That's.
But no, yeah. When it comes down to Washington, Toronto, Washington all day long.
Yeah,
they will do them.
So
yeah,
that's it.
Toronto and Edmonton were the 2 teams that needed a bona fide goalie, and they both stuck with their guys. And I think that's wrong, especially when you saw, like, Charlie Lindgren was available up until this week as a free agent, and maybe you should have went and swung for him, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, even playoff compete level, I'd probably take Washington over Toronto.
Oh, damn right.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I mean, look at Matthews' record as a game on the line player. What is he now? Yeah. Since the Four Nations, what is he now? 0-8?
No, they knocked out Tampa, right? So he's got 1 win in there, like 1 series win. So it's in there.
I'm pretty sure he was 0-7 up to Four Nations.
I think it's like single elimination games, I think he's 0-7. So that's game 7s and medal games. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it was 0-7.
Well, that, and I mean, hopefully you can get Marner to continue to be good, right? And hopefully he's still got that confidence in him to be good. But you look at him previous years, he's unnoticeable in playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. But if he plays like he did at the Four Nations, like, I will keep saying this, I will eat my words. I've been so hard on Mitch Marner over the past 3 seasons. Since Four Nations started till now, he is a fucking animal, and I will give him full props because I've ragged him maybe more than anyone else. Other than Jonathan Drouin, Mitch Marner is like the bottom of my rag list. So the fact that he's actually doing so good to me is I got to give him the props when it's there.
Yeah, but 9 times out of 10, there's always a black cloud that hangs over that locker room whenever Toronto is in that Game 7 position. Doesn't matter. They don't show up in the most important time that it matters. But for my 3 teams, honestly, guys, Toronto is not one of them. I got more confidence in actually Carolina than I do Toronto, because Carolina, with recent playoff success, has gone further. And obviously, as you guys alluded to, I also have Washington and Florida as being some of the top runners.
Nice. And I didn't even ask you guys for the West. Is it all the same three for all of us? Dallas, Colorado, Winnipeg?
Oh, yeah.
Is anyone else throwing in a different team? And really, it's only Edmonton? I don't know.
I would do Dallas, Colorado, Edmonton.
Really? You don't think Winnipeg over Edmonton?
I don't think Winnipeg does it.
After adding Luke Shen, Brandon Tanev with the team that they already have with Hellebuck and net, like you don't.
I hope I'm wrong, but I don't.
Hellebuck over Stuart Skinner, you know?
It's already happened once before. Why can't it
Connor
happen again?
McDavid, buddy? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got Hellebuck's number, dude.
I doubt they'd play one another anyways, would they?
It would have to be Western Conference Final. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It depends. I love Winnipeg. Like I love Kyle Connor, but that team as a whole has also been kind of missing lately a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they're still winning, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. Like you got 2 of the 3 best players in the world on your team. I ain't counting that team out ever. So
Fair enough. See, the way you feel about Winnipeg is the way I feel about Washington. Like it just seems like there's going to be something missing at the end of the day to me. Like that's just what it feels like.
I don't know. Winnipeg has been here a few times already. Like, oh, this is our year. We're going to do it.
Gets gentlemen swept by the Habs.
So I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's Edmonton, Dallas, and Colorado for me.
Fair enough. Anyone else have anything different than the main 4 horses?
No, I think you pretty much hit it.
I think that's fair though. Like you can't really say winners and losers right now because we haven't seen much. But on the surface of things though, Dallas and Florida and Ottawa definitely winners. I would say. What do you guys think? Well, Carolina.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Carolina kind of won a little bit too, in a sense, getting our boy.
No, I count Carolina as a loser personally.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Just in terms of the fact that they started the season with Stanley Cup aspirations. That to me is them losing.
All they lost was Natus, though. That's it.
Drury and Rantanen. You have to say that they lost Rantanen too because he was on the team. It counts.
Rantanen wasn't on the. Yeah, but when they said that they had to stand. Oh, you exhaust me.
It counts though.
I know. To an extent.
Yeah. Okay, but so they had so they went from having roster players of Nichas and Rantanen to Stankoven just on current roster.
Did you miss the part? I get that, but you missed the part where I talked about how he could just take those 2 firsts that they got at the draft and just flip them for another roster player.
Yes, but then we're talking about this trade deadline and winning the Stanley Cup, which means
then you lost Nisha for Stankoven. Or Drury and Niches for Stankoven is really all you want.
And Hall. We'll add Hall in there because they did add Hall.
So you got Taylor Hall out of it. So technically speaking, they did very well. You're just a hater.
The way I see the deadline, these guys are first. They the deadline by far. Florida in second, and then Colorado in third. They added a lot of smart pieces, a lot of depth forwards, and a couple of D-men. So I'd place them third, and then Carolina in fourth.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I don't think that even Dallas did 1 trade. I think the fact that Florida did like 5 and Colorado did 4, those guys, they get the top of the top marks. Like it takes a lot to move that many parts in a 1 week span, basically, right? Dallas only added 1 guy.
But he was the star of the deadline, though. He was the biggest name out there to say, hey, like, is he actually going to get traded?
And they signed Wyatt.
And Wyatt Johnson. But that's a signing of a guy who was an RFA, and they weren't really going to lose him anyways. So it's not like.
But Mikko did get locked down, too. That was the huge thing. He's not just a rental.
Yeah,
he got him for 8 years now.
Yeah.
Well, Ryley, you also got to think, though, because Colton also said last episode, this is going to be the year RFAs are heavily sought after.
Targeted.
Johnson could have been gone.
Imagine that. Hey?
That is
Offer sheeted by another team, right?
That's fair enough. But they didn't have to do it today, though. They could have done that any time before, the season or the off season started.
Maybe they wanted to steal the headlines and just get a comment out of you. You ever think of that?
Or they do it now. They do it now and have zero hassles.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I'll ask Tom Gallardi at the Blazers game tomorrow, okay? He's not going to be there, but I'll ask.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, so how does it feel that you guys have traded Jerome McGinley and Logan Stankoven out of the Dallas organization?
He'd be like, first of all, I bought the team in 2009, so none of that's my problem. And then
just saying though, they traded McGinley, won a cup. They trade Stankoven, maybe they'll win a cup.
That's crazy though. What if trading Blazers is the solution? Wow.
It's possible.
That's hilarious. Is there anything else we want to go over, or do we think that we're done, gentlemen?
Is there teams that maybe should have done more or did anything at all?
Edmonton.
Vancouver.
Lacking. Toronto could have done a little more, I think.
I wish I seen Chicago do more. You do that one big trade.
Toronto.
You did that one big trade, but I think they could have done a little bit more.
What about
Donato, like you said, Colton? Yeah, Ryan he should have been moved. How he wasn't moved, I don't know.
They got to have somebody there. He's so miserable there, man.
You could have traded that pick from Florida. You could have traded. You could trade Korchinski, probably. Trade Donato.
I mean, Fabian Zetterlund was available for really not that much. They could.
Why would Chicago get him?
Why not? He's a young center. Or go the Ottawa route. They trade Kevin Korchinski for those two guys. We'll stop chucking Noah Gregor.
Or trade Bertuzzi to a playoff team.
Yep, Bertuzzi.
Yeah, see, that's the guy I probably would have traded. Was him. Instead, they traded Peter Mrazek.
And you know what? Bertuzzi would probably look sick in Florida.
Yeah,
he probably would.
Well, let me see. Who didn't make trades?
Vancouver.
Montreal did make a trade. Surprisingly, they stayed completely pat on theirs out of the Atlantic.
I think that was fair. Other than it was just David Savard and Joel Armia. I think that were just the two names talked about leaving, but they decided not to.
Fair enough. I think
Jake
everyone
Stein, that was really their only big headliner.
That's a good keep. I think everyone in the Metro made a trade. All 8 teams. The Central, I think, was the most quiet. St. Louis did nothing. Utah did very little. They only did that move with Shea Weber's contract. Like you said, Chicago. I think the Central was equally the most entertaining and the least entertaining. You had Winnipeg, Colorado, and Dallas going crazy, and then Minnesota, Utah, St. Louis, Nashville, Chicago. They didn't really do much. Minnesota did the one move for Brazo.
Made no sense. Yeah, that's stupid trade.
I think the Pacific personally was quite quiet. I mean, Vegas guys, come on, they were pretty quiet.
Yeah, they tweeted out the smiley face or the high. That's all they tweeted.
Now, it was on the exact moment that they acquired Tomas Hertl last year.
Yeah,
that was discovered. So that they were just messing around.
Troll.
Because why would the social media guy be told ahead of time to troll with the community? They were probably just doing it on their own.
Because sometimes that's true though. But sometimes they do fuck around a little bit. But
yeah, because it was exactly 5 minutes before the deadline last year when they announced Hertl, and then 5 minutes before the deadline they put that little high thing. So yeah,
I thought LA could have done more.
Yes,
whatever.
Calgary should have added assets. Got rid of roster players.
The
way that you want it. The way you want it. You want to rebuild, they should have done more.
I wish they got rid of older players. Or not even that. Even if they kept the older players, I mean, there was talks of them finding Mirmanov a home. Talks of them potentially trading Vladar to give Cooley a shot. I would have liked to see trades like that happen, even if you didn't trade a guy like Kadri or Coleman.
Well, what about that speculated Kadri trade to Colorado where Kadri rejected?
Kadri rejected that. I would gladly take the haul you. I would gladly take the haul you gave for Brock Nelson for Kadri.
Well, Dakota, in that mock trade that we were laughing about, dude, guys in the comments were like, yeah, Middlestat, Cal Ritchie, throw out a couple picks, and I might consider it. And I'm like, wow, delusion. The delusion.
Wasn't the only
That's
offer
crazy.
on the table Middlestad for Kadri? Wasn't that a thing?
No, there was a mock trade out there that Dallas and
Oh.
I scrolled through, and it was Middlestat and Callum Ritchie for Kadri.
And then people in the comments were just saying, nope, you got to throw in a couple picks heading to Calgary's way, and I might consider that. And I'm like, brother in Christ, there's something going on. Like, and you're taking on Kadri's ridiculous contract. Like, no, thank you, dude.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know.
He helped us out
I think-
once. It was good enough.
Can we just say, though, to kind of wrap this up, that this deadline was awesome. Like, it brought all the heat. Almost every big name player got traded outside of like Besser and a couple other guys, but pretty much everyone else got moved. So much more, like you usually see heavy defensemen get moved, right? Lots of depth D and lots of, oh, we need this guy. This was like all offense. Everyone was just targeting offensive players almost the entire time. Some top D did get moved, and lots of guys with term too. Lots of guys still with more than 1 year on their contracts got moved out. So, yeah.
You know what's crazy though, Ryan, though, is like names like John Tavares, Mitchell Marner, and Travis Konechny. Those guys, no talks at all. Just floating around, not even like rumors or nothing. Like it was just dead air, just silence for a couple other big name UFAs coming up this summer. So that'll be interesting to see what happens then.
All right. Is that it, gentlemen? I think we're done for episode 52 of the Game Day Tarts podcast. Like we mentioned at the beginning, if you didn't watch kind of our fun mock trade one, I don't think we hit a single mock trade. I think they were all incorrect. If you haven't watched episode 50 with Stephen Ellis, please go do that. Stephen is such a great guy. Again, we could not appreciate him more for doing that. Follow us at Game Day Tarps, all social medias, subscribe on YouTube, and we're all over the place. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere really you listen to podcasts. Please listen to us when you're on the road or whatever you want to do. We would appreciate that. And we'll see everyone in episode 53 of the Game Day Tarps podcast.